Well, welcome. Before we get started, I want to say, this is obviously a big effort by everybody on the personnel side as well as our coaches, and really like to take this time and really thank them, Vance and his assistant coaches, and they were a tremendous help. Matt Russell, Director of Player Personnel, did a tremendous job, my right-hand man. Brian Stark, Director of College Scouting. A.J. Durso, who's the Director of Pro Personnel. And then Gary Kubiak and Tom Heckert were huge helps. And, to have their advice and really have Gary in there with the experience that he has was a tremendous help. And really then the unsung heroes are our scouts. Eugene Armstrong, Dave Bratton, Scott DeStefano, Klein Kubiak, Darren Muji, Nick Shirelli, Brian Chesin, and then also on the pro side, Jordan Dizon, Patrick Walsh, and then our personnel interns, Dion Randall and Robbie Payton. They do a great job. We ask them to do a lot, and they really, really do a great job. And then also Greek and Vince and our medical team, Steve Antonopoulos, Vince Garcia, as well as Mitch Tanny and Scott Flaskin with our analytics, which we dove into a little bit this year, as well as Mark Thews and Mike Sullivan on the administrative side, and then Ray Jackson and Pam Papsdorf on logistics and travel. So, we really thank them. We couldn't do it without them. It's a team effort. We're real excited about how the draft ended, and the way it fell for us. Obviously, it never falls perfect for you, but we're excited about the way it did fall. We feel like we got a lot of real good football players, and also really good people and quality guys that are great competitors and have a toughness to them. And so, as far as a group of guys, when it comes to that side, we're really excited about that. So, we're excited about the draft. Now, obviously, the work begins now. I know there's going to be a lot of comparisons on how everyone thinks, and we're going to get graded on how the draft turns out. But ultimately, the true grade is whether we win football games or not. So, we'd rather win football games than the day after the draft on what we did on April, the 28th. So, but as I said, we're excited about the opportunity that we have and the guys that we have that we're going to turn over to Vance and the staff to be able to work with them and get the most out of them. So, do you want to say anything, Vance, before we open it up?
Yeah, just thanking the staff for their hard work, and obviously John and his staff, they did a great job. We had a plan for every guy that we drafted, and that's a good feeling. You don't want to draft guys that don't have a plan for them. So every guy we drafted, we had a clear plan for. Again, John said it is good players, but good people also. So we want to add guys to our culture that can help us win and help keep our culture strong.
Yeah, John.
Why do you guys let Cliff ask the first question every time? I can't believe that happens. I mean, that's not even right.
Age.
2 out of 3 nights. Oh,
we must pay you.
Do we, Mike?
It's an age thing.
I know, I get it. Okay.
And I promise you do not pay me. But you mentioned all those guys, that your helpers and everybody. Did you feel pressure going into this draft after 5-11 that and was it intense, the preparation, knowing that you had to hit on the draft this year?
Well, I mean, being 5-11, we knew, we had to bounce back from it. And, that's not what's acceptable for this organization, and we knew that. So whether we felt pressure or not, if you don't feel pressure at all times in this job, then something's wrong. So we just knew going in that, we wanted to get quality people that were quality football players. We had we're in good shape with 8 picks in the first 5 rounds, and then we ended up moving back a couple of times to pick up a couple more picks. But, we got a lot of picks with a lot of quality guys. So, Mike, it's a, we feel it every time we work in this business, and that's, we do it because we got to win.
John, with the exception of Jones, your other 9 picks all spent 4 years in college. Most of them were captains. How do you think that experience and maturity is going to help shape your roster, and do you expect an immediate impact more so out of this group because of that?
Well, it is a mature group, as you said, and there are a lot of seniors in the group, so we're excited about that maturity level. But really, all of them are that way, and I think that you know, one thing we wanted to do going into this draft is, you know, we wanted to get, as I say, quality football players, but also quality people, and that was an emphasis. And you know, to have that maturity level, and I think, you know, the one thing that we learned last year when you're, you know, we're 5-11, and you know, you're in a losing streak, you need that maturity and that leadership to get things turned around. And so these players have that ability, they have that maturity level, and the fact that, and I'm not saying to say we weren't mature, but I'm just saying when you need guys that when you're going through a tough time to be able to, you know, be mentally tough and get things turned around. And that's why we, you know, decided to go more that direction, to say that, you know, if things got tough for a couple of weeks, you know, we've got to get things turned around.
Vance, looking back on it now, how much did coaching the Senior Bowl come into play, and how beneficial was that week in Mobile?
It was huge for us. You know, obviously coaching that game is a clear advantage going into the draft. We drafted 3 guys from that Senior Bowl game. And to have a chance to work with those guys for a full week in meetings and on the practice field is huge for you. You know, so you don't draft guys blindly. You know, so you know, coaching that game was huge, and you know, taking 3 guys from that game proves it.
And I will say this: we don't want to coach that for a long time.
No, or pick top 5, right?
Right. So we don't.
That was fine this year,
we had
but
a
I think
great
we're
time at
beyond
the
that.
Senior Bowl, but we're good coaching it for a while.
Vance, what's the key to getting a young player on the field early, and what did you learn last year about striking the balance between winning that next game and developing the young guy?
I think players, you know, players develop at different rates. You know, so each player, you know, I mean, they're different. You want players to come in that have the maturity to play early. Obviously, the coach has a big part of that, but you know, obviously fit, you know, maturity and need. You know, so you want all of these guys to have a chance to come in and compete for a job, and that's why we drafted them. In this class, in my opinion, every guy on this sheet here, you know, will have a chance to compete. Again, every player develops differently. So the guys from last year's class, okay, they've been in the league now for, you know, 7-8 months. They have a chance to come back this year and compete again and prove their worth. So I think as you have your draft classes, you know, some guys can play the first year, second year, even the third year. You know, so just being patient with certain guys, and you know, having the coaches to coach those guys up and get them better every year. That's the key. You know, improvement every year.
Were you ever close to taking a quarterback in this class, and that you didn't? Is that a vote of confidence for Paxton?
Well, we, you know, obviously always looking at the board, and there was a couple quarterbacks over there, but I thought that, you know, we had other players that we wanted, that direction we wanted to go. So, you know, again, I told you the other night that with Paxton, we still think he's young, and we still think that, you know, he's we're not kicking him to the curb. We think that he can still develop, and when we drafted him 2 years ago, you know, that we knew it was going to, as I said, we knew that it was going to take some time. So Paxton's going to compete with Chad for that backup spot. We're not going to bring another one in for OTAs. We'll take a peek at that, but it'll be those two and Case, and so we're going to OTAs with those guys and go from there.
Quickly on 2 guys, Deshaun Hamill, did you see him as more of a slot guy? How does he profile? And Sam Jones, the local kid, did you have extra intel on him, or was it strictly through Combine or Pac-12 recruiting that you came across the local?
Well, Hamilton, I mean, he's a lot like Cortland. It's big guys that's played all 3 positions. So, you know, we didn't narrow these guys down just being a slot guy. You know, we have receivers that fit a certain skill set that we wanted. You know, we wanted big, fast guys with great ball skills, and he fits in that profile. So, you know, being a slot guy doesn't mean you're 5'9". You know, that's all by concept. That's by design. So he can play everywhere. At the Senior Bowl, he was our best receiver. You know, so having that guy for a full week and watching his maturity as a player was huge for us.
What did you guys think of Jones? What led you to Jones?
Well, we just like the way he played the game. You know, I think that he's got good size. He's aggressive, and you know, Sean Kugler really liked him. The offensive line coach really liked him, and so you know, we liked the fact that the way he went about his business. And now he's, you know, obviously got a lot to learn, as all these guys do. But you know, felt that Sam had some upside, and liked the way that he played the game. So
Absolutely.
decided to go that way.
You guys got these 10 players, but this organization has shown in the past a